don't doubt that you know a lot about popular songs. Let's say you know all there is to know about popular songs.
Audrey Meadows was beloved for her role as the sharp, unshakable Alice Cramden. Her dynamic with Jackie Gleason lit up television screens across America, and their clever exchanges became a blueprint for sitcom relationships. But beneath the polished performance, something more complicated was unfolding, something few viewers realized. Audrey wasn't just playing a role, she was enduring something deeper. She kept the real story hidden. The pressure, the emotional balancing act, the personal toll it took to keep up the illusion of effortless chemistry, all of it remained behind the scenes. Then, decades later, she finally opened up. 73 years old, Audrey Meadows revealed truths about Jackie Gleason that stunned fans. She didn't lash out or seek pity. Instead, her words quietly shifted how we saw both her and the man once hailed as the Great One. And it all traced back to an audition that nearly didn't happen. When Audrey first pursued the role of Alice Cramden on The Honeymooners, she faced an immediate and humiliating dismissal. Jackie Gleason, already a rising TV powerhouse, thought she looked too elegant, too refined to play a gritty Brooklyn housewife. But Audrey was determined not to walk away defeated. Instead, she devised a bold strategy to prove she was right for the part. She hired a photographer, dressed down in a worn-out housecoat, stripped off her makeup, and posed in a shabby kitchen looking haggard and unpolished. When Gleason saw the photos, he immediately exclaimed, "That's her!" not realizing it was the same woman he had just rejected. Once he found out, he agreed to cast her. It was a brilliant move, but it also set the tone for their entire working relationship. Gleason remained the dominant force, and Audrey was the one who had to mold herself to his world. Even in that moment, she wasn't just landing a role, she was learning how to survive in a dynamic that would define her entire experience on the show. That decision, to adapt rather than retreat, shaped the years to come. But getting the part was just the beginning. Audrey had no idea what working with Jackie Gleason would truly demand. Once The Honeymooners became a full-fledged series, it quickly became obvious that Gleason didn't just star in the show, he controlled every aspect of it. From the scripts to the camera angles, nothing happened without his say. He avoided rehearsals, convinced that spontaneity was the secret to comedy. For Audrey, this meant navigating a difficult and unpredictable environment. Though she was a seasoned and talented actress, she constantly had to measure her performance. She could be funny, but not too funny. She could be strong, but never outshine Gleason. Every line she delivered came with a silent calculation, how to shine without crossing an invisible line. Rehearsals were rare, and filming was high pressure. Scenes were often done in one take with no room for error. Mistakes weren't just frowned upon, they sparked visible tension. Gleason's temper was infamous. Crew members were cautious. Writers were nervous. And Audrey? She stayed calm. But it wore on her. This wasn't just about acting. It was about enduring an environment where a single man's ego could shift the ground beneath everyone's feet. Audrey's grace masked the strength it took to get through each day. Working with Gleason meant more than performing, it meant managing his moods. One day he could be jovial, the next cold and dismissive. Times he didn't speak to her off-camera at all. For Audrey, this was more than exhausting, it left lasting emotional scars. Her well-known poise wasn't just professionalism. It was self-preservation. She had learned to hide her discomfort behind wit and perfect timing. Comedy she delivered wasn't only for laughs, it was a tool to ease tension on set. And yet, she never let the cracks show. She never stumbled, never fired back. Instead, she channeled her frustration into Alice's sharp remarks. Her iconic comebacks often came from real emotional pain, camouflaged as humor. She played the role of the sensible wife not just for viewers but to keep the set stable. Ironically, the very tension she felt behind the scenes fueled the on-screen magic that fans adored. The fiery banter between Ralph and Alice Cramden felt so authentic that viewers assumed the two actors were close off camera. But that wasn't the case. According to Audrey, there was little personal connection. They spoke only when necessary. And what fans saw as chemistry was, in reality, carefully controlled friction. The tension on screen wasn't acted, it was real. Gleason's unpredictable, forceful energy clashed with Audrey's calm, calculated delivery. That dynamic gave their scenes a unique, almost uncomfortable realism. The exasperation in Audrey's eyes, the sarcasm in her voice, it was born of genuine fatigue. Crew members later confirmed that the atmosphere was tense, and everyone tiptoed around Gleason's moods. Yet Audrey never buckled. She stayed strong, not with outbursts but with quiet resilience. Her power wasn't loud, but it was unshakable. Still, Audrey remained silent about it all, until many years later when she decided to share her side. For decades, Audrey Meadows stayed quiet. She smiled in interviews, praised Gleason, and let the Honeymooners stand as the feel-good sitcom everyone remembered. But the emotional burden she carried didn't fade. It wasn't until she was 73, long after Gleason had passed, that she began to speak openly. Through interviews and her memoir, Audrey finally shared what those years had really been like. She didn't lash out or seek pity. Her words were thoughtful and composed. She acknowledged Gleason's brilliance, but didn't shy away from describing how emotionally draining the experience had been. She explained why she had kept quiet for so long. In the 1950s, women who pushed back risked being labeled difficult, and that could end a career. Audrey understood the stakes. So she stayed quiet, adapted, and protected the illusion. She let audiences believe what they wanted. But when she finally told the truth, she didn't destroy Gleason's reputation, she completed the story. She reclaimed her legacy, not just as a beloved sitcom character, but as a woman who withstood incredible pressure and still delivered an unforgettable performance. Her final interaction with Gleason brought a quiet kind of closure. It wasn't dramatic or emotional, it was simple and sincere. Gleason expressed his respect, and Audrey saw a different side of him at last. "I forgave him," she said later, "but I never forgot." That single sentence carried the weight of decades. By choosing to speak in her own time, Audrey Meadows gave fans more than a behind-the-scenes account, she gave context. She didn't attack Gleason's legacy. Instead, she offered insight into what it meant to be strong in an era that demanded silence from women. In the end, Audrey didn't just play Alice Cramden. She lived through the price of making the Honeymooners a success. And with her quiet honesty, she added the final piece to a story we all thought we already knew. She didn't rewrite history. She gave it depth.